This is G47 for 0-Point-Fuel. Boy, I've always wanted to say that. Folks, this is my first video on 0-Point-Fuel. I've been ragged upon a little bit by the forum owner, who will go unnamed, as to having a nice camera and not using it. So I wanted to get this YouTube video out to you guys. This weekend I'm finishing up cutting my cores for the additional 6 coils that I need. We are wrapping these babies up. I need to get 6 more done, so I'm almost there. So what I want to do is just shoot a video to get started on just cutting some cores. What we got here is a core that I'm cutting. Notice there's a blue line there. That's the piece above the line that I need to cut to make it exactly what is it, 1 3/4 inches tall. So I have 3 more cores I need to cut in addition to the one I just showed you, and this is a core that's already been cut. I want to point out the fact that these are wrapped in blue painter's tape to hold them together. When I'm done cutting them, the blue tape will come off and I'll rewrap it in electrical tape. No sense in wrapping it in good tape if it's going to get all chewed up, so I'll do that later. So anyway, I got some Irwin clamps, and I'll show you how I use those. I got 3 big ones and a small one that I use. Let me put these aside for right now and show you the jig that I put together. This is not as elaborate as the one Technomancer has, but it does the deed. So basically this is some leftover wood that I had from building my workbench. Never throw your scraps away. What I did was I created a channel, I don't know if you can see that, that will house the core in here, and I created a slot. This channel is about 4 inches deep, and the reason I did that is that if in the future I need to cut a core that's a little bit longer, I have enough working room in there, and I'll show you what I did to compensate for that. Anyway, there's a little ledge here. If you can see that, that is the ledge to just hold the lip of the core that's going to hang over, so it gives it a little bit of support. Basically some brackets to hold it down, a little bit of glue and screws wherever I could put them to give it reinforcement so it doesn't open up on me while I'm trying to cut them. The jig is portable, but it is loose. I don't need to bolt it down, and I'll show you how I do that. All right. So let's get started. Oh, I also have some spacers here. I'm going to show you what these are all about. That's what helps me compensate for having a larger core or a smaller core that I need to cut. So let's get started. First of all, let's clamp this baby down so that it doesn't get in our way. Oh, by the way, I have a not so fancy cutter that will go unnamed, but you can probably figure it out with a metal cutting blade that I'll be using. So let's get started. Let's clamp this thing down so it doesn't move on us. Let me use this one here. All right, and we'll get this going as quickly as possible. I've already cut quite a few cores, so getting this going should not be a problem. I won't show you the actual cutting of the entire core because that's kind of boring, but at least the initial setup. Okay, so we got this clamped down. It's pretty tight. It won't move on us, and like I said, I can put it in a box when I'm not using it. All right, so let's get going with the core. All right, so we're gonna drop this core in here, but obviously this core is only about almost shy of 2 inches. But this channel that I have here is actually a little bit deeper than that. Let me move that around a little bit so you can see that a little better. So what I do is to compensate for that is I have some spacers. So we have an initial spacer that goes in the back that's gonna take up some room for me. And what I did was I made these spacers deep enough here so that when I drop the core in to get cut, it actually gives me exactly 1 3/4. So if I needed, like I said, in the future, a longer core, I could just remove these spacers and be done with it. All right. So let's just drop that in there. Make sure it lines up with the 1 3/4. Sometimes you have to tap it in. I have a old beat up core that I got out of a microwave that Technomancer used. I use it as a block. I'm going to tap that in there and make sure it's lined up. Okay, I have another spacer to pin it down from the top. That goes in here, and as you can see, it comes flush right up to this metal blade that's right about here. This is my first video. It may not be perfect. Hopefully you can still see all this. And I got one little block that just kind of goes in here to keep the you know, like I said, all the room. So to keep the block from shifting on me, still tap it in some more, make sure it lines up with that line. We're going to drop another Irwin clamp here on the top, and we're going to pin the core down so that the core doesn't spin. So this block is actually pressing down on the core. And I continue tapping to make sure it doesn't shift on me, right? And for giggles, I just put this one across the top edge to keep the block from opening up on me. I wanted to point out these laminates that I used were the laminates on they're on the forum. They're under the G47 motor topic. If you scan, I think it's on page 2. These laminates were purchased out of a company in Chicago. They will sell you a block of them. These are EI laminates. These are the I's. I already ran out of them, so I started cutting the E's to fit my needs. So it's actually worked out pretty well. They come loose, and you just put them together to give you the height that you need. It's 1/2 inch wide, as Technomancer mentioned, and then you just cut them down the size. So let's get started. So the jig is ready to go. It's pinned down. Everything's tight. It's not going to move on me. It's been tapped in. I'm going to start cutting a little bit. This is actually the boring part. What I'll do is I'll cut a little bit, stop the video, and come back and show you when I'm wrapping up, when I get ready to pull it out. So it's about 1:25 Eastern Standard Time. I'm going to see how long it takes me to cut through all this. These little hand saw machines are actually pretty cool. You know, it takes a few minutes, but you get actually right through it. I did try working in the past with these microwave cores. My problem was that they were not 1/2 inch wide, right? And not only would I have to have cut them deep, I would have had to have cut them this way, and at that point it was becoming almost impossible. These are actually still loose. As a matter of fact, I actually did keep one that I pulled out of a microwave. Boy, isn't that a honking piece of thing. The laminates are actually will come off. I started rubbing this down. But look at this thing. This thing is huge, and it was going to take me forever to get it to be this size here. So I gave up on that idea, spent some more time, found a company in Chicago that sends them to you. You need to buy a whole box. It's not expensive, and you're off to the races. So I've already expended on the 12 cores we're going to wind up having. We're going to wind up having a little bit left over on some of the E's. I can still probably do maybe 6 or 8 more cores. So it's worked out real well. So let's put that aside. Let's get this out of the way, and let's just start cutting down on the jig. Like I said, I'm going to get started, stop the video, come back for a wrap up. All right, let's go. All right, so we're back. Time now is 1:36. So it's taking me 6 minutes to cut down almost to the very bottom. I'm down to maybe 5 laminates down here. I don't know if you can see that too well, but I wanted to restart the video. So like I said, I didn't want to bore you with 6 minutes of cutting, and we're going to wrap this up, dismantle it, and just bring up a couple of points about the jig, and we'll call it quits. And then as like Technomancer, I'd get back to cutting the rest of my course. So let's wrap this up. Alright, that is it. Let's pop this thing out and just talk about the jig a couple more minutes and we're done. Alright, so let's take this off. Take this off. We're going to pull the spacers to hold them down. Pull the one in the back off. I should be able to get in there with a screwdriver and pop this out. No problem. It will be very hot. And there is one thing I'm going to want to point out about it being hot. I'm gonna need to grab it with a rag. Give me 1 second. Apologize. So I'll pop this baby out. Good thing about the painter's tape is that it does a pretty good job at holding it together. Oh, there we go. We just grab it with this. One thing to point out is that, first of all, it's very hot. Number two, I don't know if you can see that, but the laminates tend to bulge out. Let me grab this. Damn thing is hot. Tend to bulge out in a Y, kind of like in a Y shape. So in order to get it back in shape a little bit, I'm going to drop it on the bench press, squeeze it the whole length this way to kind of put it back in place, and while it's still hot, and it seems to work for me. So let me just drop that. Give me 1 second. So just, you can't see it, but I'm dropping it on the bench press and squeezing it down, and we'll just let it sit there until it cools down. Couple things I want to point out about the jig. One thing that I love is that it's portable and removable, and it's not stationary. I know Technomancer has something a little fancier. Whatever works for everybody, this works just fine for me. One thing to point out is that the two plates, I think I'm going to need to swap that out there in a second. They're a little bit worn down. I'll do that. One thing that is key is that you need to have like a little lip here to hold the portion of the core that's going to stick out. So you only need a little space here to let the blade drop when you're doing the last few laminates. I didn't have that there before, and that Y thing that the core does when you're getting down to the very bottom actually becomes really wide, and it was making a mess. So the bench press fixes that, but it was probably better to just give it a little lip on here. If I had it my way, I would have made that out of metal, but I just used some leftover plastic. The other thing too is to give it some height off the bottom of the board. I don't know if you can see that inside the channel, but there's a little bit of another piece of plastic laying down. That elevates the core up just enough so that when you cut through with the blade here, it gives it, you know, 1/4 of an inch for the blade to finish dropping down and cutting the core. So I'm gonna put the next one in, and that'll wrap this up. Normally what I do, I'm not gonna do it in this video, is I'll run a pencil mark right here to make sure that I'm at 1 3/4. I don't have my good pen with me right now. And I'll actually take it back out and measure it with the ruler and make sure that we got 1 3/4 and put it back in. You know, measure twice, cut once kind of guy. I know Technomancer laughs at me about that. And that's a wrap. So I'll combine these two videos together and do some editing and post it up on YouTube. Oh, one last thing. I do want to point out, I think what's good at the end of every video is to point out what's coming next. I do want to talk about this. Let me see if you can get that in there. Yep. Go left or right? Here we go. This is the new control board that I built for the removable resistors. I'll be doing a video about that later. Mind you, I need to go on record saying that whatever I post does not supersede in any way what Technomancer says. If he says this is wrong, it's wrong. Chuck it, and we go with what he says. But I found it easier, and I'll be talking more about this little board that I built. I was bored waiting for my magnets to come in about a month ago, and put this board together, did some tests, and it seems to be working out great. So I'll do another video about that later. All right, this is G47 for ZeroPointFuel. I'll talk to you later. Thanks.